Hello, everyone. I wanted to welcome you today to our webinar on going from ERP on-premise to cloud, mapping your journey. It is 2 o'clock here Eastern. We are ready to go, except we've got a few people coming in right now. So I'm going to just go on hold here for just a minute or two and give folks a couple more minutes to come on board, and then we will get started. So if you'll just hang on just a minute, we'll be right back with you. Okay, I think we will go ahead and get started. So again, I wanted to welcome everyone today to our webinar going from ERP on-premise to cloud, mapping your journey. A couple quick housekeeping items I'd like to mention before we get started. First, all attendees are in listen-only mode. If you do have any questions, and we certainly do encourage questions throughout today's presentation, please submit those through the GoToWebinar question box. We will be answering those questions following the end of the presentation here. And second, we are also recording today's presentation. You will receive an email tomorrow with a link to the recording of this session. So with that, today we've got Bert Burney, a cloud solution architect, and Jeff Smith, a D365 solution architect here at Velocio, and are going to be providing our presentation today. I'll be back at the end to facilitate any questions you might have. And again, want to encourage you to type those questions into the GoToWebinar question box. So with that quick housekeeping introduction, I will turn things over to Bert to get us started.
Great, thank you, Rocky, and thank you everyone for taking time out of your busy schedule today to attend this session. Just a little quick note at the beginning to just let you know what the purpose of this webinar is, and just introduce Velocio. You know, here at Velocio, we are the new cloud provider and the new cloud leader that actually is driving adoption amongst our customers and opportunities to help them accelerate their journey into their next, in terms of what is next for their organization, in terms of cloud deployment, and using the latest and greatest tools and resources from Microsoft in terms of ERP in the cloud. And so today, Jeff and I are going to take some turns going through this and talking a little bit about D365. And as a result, the session objectives today that we're going to be talking about is offering compelling reasons to move from an on-premise solution and deployment to a cloud-based solution, and then sharing options with you for moving your business solution to the cloud, either today with the options that are available or future considerations and future deployment. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn the microphone over to Jeff and join again at the end of this presentation. Jeff?
Bert, thank you so much. I appreciate your introduction, and appreciate all of your time for taking a little bit of extra time out of your day to learn more about moving from an on-premise solution to a product in the cloud. We want to talk today about Business Central because it is a leading modern cloud-based application available for you in the cloud, and we're going to talk about a variety of different ways that you can get there. So I first wanted to start off by just simply talking about what is Business Central. So Business Central is really a single comprehensive solution that is meant to meet the needs of many businesses. It starts off with a base of financial management, as you might expect, but it also includes tools that are sales and service management driven, supply chain management. So if you're an organization that distributes product and need to purchase and to sell products, certainly this is a great solution for you. No solution would be worth its while if it didn't provide you with great reporting and analytics. And Business Central really is poised to provide you with a variety of different ways to present your data, whether it be in a standard grid-like report or in a dashboard, and you really have lots of options in regards to what's the best way for you. A lot of times that'll end up depending also on how you work and who needs access to the information and what their involvement is in the solution overall. We'll also be able to provide you with operational management tools to help your business while being embedded directly in Business Central. Project management, so if any of you are professional service organizations or just service organizations in general that do project work and need to be able to report and transact with projects with your customers, we certainly have the ability to do that. And one of the great things about that is that Business Central is really the hub that I'll talk about in a second, that also allows you to pull information from other tools and send information out to other tools. So you can connect easily with payroll or banking or CRM solutions, any other industry-specific applications that you feel are important to the operations of your business. So to put that in a little bit more perspective, I thought this diagram might be helpful for you. So Dynamics 365 Business Central really sits in the middle of the Microsoft ecosystem. It integrates very nicely with a variety of the different tools that are available today from Microsoft. So I would assume that many of you on the line today are using Office 365. Many of us over the years have used Excel and Word and Outlook and so forth. And Business Central collaborates very well with those tools to be able to increase productivity, provide you information, and communicate better with others. Also, you'll notice on the right-hand side, we have what we call intelligence and analytics. So also included in Office 365 is a tool called Power Flow or Microsoft Flow, which is a workflow application that works in conjunction with Business Central to allow you to collaborate and coordinate with others within the organization through workflow approvals and being able to notify individuals based upon certain happenings within the Business Central application. Also, there is Power Apps, which is a really fantastic tool to allow users to develop applications that will enhance the capabilities of Business Central, whether those be workflows, whether those be certain niche data collection, maybe integration work, all of those things could be included. And then obviously, many of you have probably heard of Power BI, which is a very powerful tool from Microsoft that allows you to create a dashboard and other certainly important reporting capabilities. And all of this is built on the Microsoft Azure cloud, which provides you with a very secure environment. It eliminates risk and really can also be a real cost savings for you. We'll talk about that a little more in a bit. Tools like Cortana Intelligence, Cognitive Services, Common Data Services provide you with the ability to interact with all of these tools to be able to make sure that the right people have the right information and the right people have the ability to enter their information and transact the way they need to. Lastly, when we look at this, I wanted to make mention of a tool called Microsoft AppSource. AppSource is a fabulous marketplace that allows you to interact with software developers that have created applications to work in conjunction with Business Central. So AppSource might be anything from an enhanced project tool to an integration tool to a payroll tool. And so all of those things are available to you, and there are hundreds and hundreds of applications that are available to work in conjunction with Business Central. And many, if not all of them, will be embedded right directly in the Business Central application, so that you're working in one common environment. The other thing that's important to know as we talk about Office 365, and for those of you that use it probably know about this, is Office 365 gives you all the capability to take work the way you work. You can take it to on an Apple iPad or an iPhone. You can put it on an Android device. You can have it on a Macintosh. The whole idea is that it works the way you do. And Business Central has a mobile application that allows you to do that as well. So all of the transactional functionality that exists in Business Central, just like Office 365, is available to you at your fingertips. So with all of that in mind, I wanted to talk about, so many of you on the line are probably using a server-based application, and many of you may work with us on tools like Dynamics GP or Dynamics NAV or Dynamics SL. And so the purpose of today's discussion is to talk about what your options are if this is something that you're thinking about either now or in the future. So I'm going to move on to what are your options? As you're sitting here today, what are your options? Your options are to move to a true cloud-based application, Dynamics 365 Business Central. Also, we're going to be able to talk a little bit about more of a phased approach. That phased approach allows us to transition to Dynamics 365 Business Central in the future, perhaps, while getting to experience some of that cloud-based application and the power of Business Central today. We can also, and this is where Bert will provide us with some good information and some value statements, is we have the ability to move Dynamics that you're on today or other on-premise solutions to the cloud via Microsoft Azure. And Bert will talk to you a little bit about what's the value proposition for that. Why would I want to do that, and what do I gain from it? And then obviously your last choice also is to keep your existing application on premise. In a little bit, we're going to talk about why would you choose any of those different options, and hopefully you'll find value in that conversation. So today, Microsoft is providing a tool to allow you to take your on-premise solution today, and I want to clarify, when I'm talking about on-premise, I'm really talking about on your servers or in a hosted environment that may not be on your servers, but you're still using the traditional Dynamics GP, SL, NAV, or even on-premise Business Central on a hosted environment. And there is tooling that's available that will allow us to move directly to the true cloud-based application, Dynamics 365 Business Central. So we'll talk a little bit about what the options are there and how it works and what you need to do to prepare for that. But Microsoft knows that not everybody's in the position right now to make that change, and therefore is offering you other options as well. So what I'm going to talk about next is what you might call a midterm option. So the midterm option is a step that allows us to replicate data that exists in Dynamics GP, Dynamics NAV, and Dynamics SL, and surface that information or replicate that information in the cloud. What that gives us the capability of doing is then taking advantage of all of those web tools that are out there to help us drive business, such as Power BI, as Power Apps, artificial intelligence, etc. You'll be able to leverage that using your on-premise data today. What this allows you to do is really take a more, let's stick our toe in the water, so to speak, so that you start to make that move, but circumstances may prohibit you right now from making a full move to the cloud. So keep in mind as we go through the rest of this discussion, what we're going to be talking about is this option of either moving to a midterm solution or moving directly to the cloud. So I'm going to there'll be two terms that we're going to talk about that'll be really important. One of those is replication, which is your midterm option, and then one is migration, which would be taking you from your today's on-premise solution to the cloud. Now, I will say this to set expectations as we go through this process. If there are any of you that are not using Microsoft tools today, Dynamics products today, then your story is a little different, but you're still going to have the option of moving to the cloud and moving to Business Central. Your process may just be a little bit different. So when we talk about the midterm option, we're really talking about replication. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is that we have the ability to use what we call intelligent cloud insights. And what intelligent cloud insights allows us to do, like I said before, is surface your information in a cloud environment, in a Business Central tenant in the cloud. Now, this is just one quick example of a screen that you might see. And I know it's a little small and perhaps a little blurry in this PowerPoint deck, but the idea is that we can see available cash, we can see sales profitability, we can see net income, and then you have some drill down functionalities as well. As well as you can see down below, we have Power BI reports that are available to us, and you have other insights. For instance, wouldn't it be nice to know that 10 of your customers are late on their payments to you? Well, certainly that would be good to know and have that information available to the people who need to know it. Business Central is a role-based application, so you can provide this information to them depending on what is important to their role. So when I talk about migration, I talk about really a one-time data move. So you're really moving away from your on-premise solution and you're moving to Dynamics 365 Business Central as your primary solution. Now, that's not to say that there might not be a test move and then a production move, but the idea is that you are making the choice at this point with a project to move away from your existing tool. That could be Dynamics GP, SL, or NAV. Now, the NAV move is going to be a little bit easier because Dynamics 365 Business Central, the legacy of that product actually resides in Dynamics NAV. So we'll talk a little bit about differences as we move through this presentation. All right, so then when I talk about replication, then what I'm talking about is scheduled recurring data. And so that might mean that I'm moving on a daily basis. I'm updating my dashboard that you see here, and then certainly I can determine the frequency for which that gets taken care of. Daily process and your transactions continue in your on-premise solution just like they always have. Also, Dynamics 365 Business Central then is going to provide value while you continue to use your on-premise solution. So it's going to surface information for you. It's going to be very available for those people who travel or need metrics, those types of things. But really, from a fundamental perspective, the day-to-day work will still continue on in your existing solution today. So for us to do this replication, it will require that we're on specific versions of Dynamics products. So with GP, we have to be on 2018 R2. With NAV, we need to be on 2018, and the same be true with Dynamics SL. So what that means is, and we'll talk about this more, is that you may, if replication is your first foray into the cloud, you're going to dip your toe into the water. You may or you will need to upgrade to these latest versions of Dynamics GP, NAV, or SL. So what I wanted to start off with is let's talk about Dynamics GP, because Dynamics GP, we have a big client base of Dynamics GP. And what I wanted to start off with is if we decide to take this midterm intelligent cloud approach, what do we need to do? So to do the synchronization, we must be on Dynamics GP 2018 R2. And that, again, may require that you upgrade. Depending on the last time you upgrade, you could be on 2015, 2016, 2018, or 2018 R2 if you're on an existing supported product. I know that there are still clients using 2013 perhaps. So all of those situations would require that you upgrade to GP 2018 R2. So to use the Intelligent Cloud, you then need to provision a Business Central tenant. And then what that means is that you'll have then the Business Central environment available to you in the cloud, hosted in Microsoft Azure. You'll then set up a synchronization schedule, and you also will set up all of your users that are going to be leveraging the Intelligent Cloud. So by the time you're done with all this setup, then your information is going to start to flow from Dynamics GP into Business Central Intelligent Cloud, or the Intelligent Insights. And so that's going to provide you then with those metrics, those dashboards that you're going to need to access that stuff. And then again, back to the idea that if I'm on GP and I'm using Business Central to surface this information, then I can have that information anywhere. I could have it while I'm traveling. It could be on my iPad. It can be on my Microsoft Surface. It can be on my Android device, whatever is necessary, because it's then a true cloud-based application. So if I choose, rather than taking the midterm approach, if I decide to take the full-in approach and I decide to migrate from Dynamics GP to Dynamics 365 Business Central, then what do we migrate? Well, so Microsoft has provided a variety of tools that allow us to do really a more templated migration. And what we can do there is we can migrate your GL accounts and balances, your customers and open receivables, your vendors and open payables, and your items and quantities on hand. Now, many of you may say, well, okay, what about history? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But just understand that those are the options that will migrate over for you using those tools. Now, if you decide you want to take a step back, we could treat this more like I'm coming from any solution, and there are ways of moving additional data, such as historical data. We'd want to talk that through and scope that out so that we know exactly what needs to happen. But if we're going to leverage the tools that are out of the box from Microsoft, then these are the pieces of data that we'll be able to bring across. Now, to do this migration, there are only 3 versions that are required. So if I'm on GP 2018, then I need to be on build 18.00.0483. And so that's just the latest build. That would have you on Dynamics GP 2018 R2. If you're on 2016, I won't read the numbers to you, but you can see, and 2015. These are the 3 still supported applications from on the Dynamics GP platform. And so these are the 3 versions that you need to be on. So perhaps you might be on 2016, but you may not be on that particular service pack, and you could have to then do an update to your system to get you to there so that you could then use the tool. But at that point, then you can actually migrate all of your data that I've mentioned before over to Dynamics 365 Business Central, and then you could transition all of your operations over to that product. Now, I'm going to say this about GP, but it really applies to most all of the products that we're going to talk about. This is not something you just do. There are considerations that you want to think about. So if I'm going to do this migration, I need to think about what third-party applications do I use with my Dynamics GP, and can I replicate that functionality either inside of Business Central or with something off the app source marketplace, because we don't want you to compromise your functionality requirements to move to the cloud. So that's something that would require that you spend some time with us discussing and reviewing everything that you're doing. And our team actually even has a migration questionnaire that helps us make some determinations in regards to that. So feel free to reach out if that's something you want to consider. All right, so let's switch over from Dynamics GP to Dynamics SL. So to move to the intelligent cloud, we have to be on SL 2018. And again, that may require that we do an upgrade to get us there. The Business Central tenant must be provisioned, synchronization schedule available, and users must be set up. So that's really the same process that we talked about with Dynamics GP, we would do with Dynamics SL. At that point, once we've gone through the motions of all of that, then we would be able to synchronize our data on whatever schedule is determined and be able to provide those metrics the way that we had talked about. Now, in general, our move to SL, from SL, I should say, is going to be very similar. So we're going to bring GL accounts and balances, customers and open receivables, vendors and open payables, and items and quantity on hand. So now the versions required here are Dynamics SL 2015 and Dynamics SL 2018. So just understand that the process will be the same. You still need to think about how am I using SL, what independent software vendor or third-party applications am I working in conjunction with SL. One other thing to keep in mind, and I didn't mention this on GP, but I will mention it now because it applies to both GP and SL, is that there are some distinct differences, for instance, in regards to the design of the chart of accounts. So one of the things you'll need to think about is making sure that your chart of accounts is the way you want it. We will, instead of in GP, instead of having a segmented string that might have department dash natural account dash sub account, the natural account is segregated from the other business units by what's called dimensions in Business Central. And with Dynamics SL, you have a natural account, so that is the same, but you also have a connected sub account where it still would have to be segregated a little bit more with Business Central. The other thing I wanted to make mention of is as you move from these two products into Business Central, you'll also want to make sure that you are thinking about, are there any design changes in your system that you'd like to make so that the system functions at a higher level for you. So for instance, maybe now's a time that you would redesign your chart of accounts, or maybe now is a time that you'll renumber your vendors or your customers or your items to make sure that they're more efficient. So those are all considerations, and in effect, the conversations that we'll have to make sure that we get you moved over as efficiently as we possibly can. All right, so now what I would like to do is make a switch over to Dynamics NAV. And so moving to the Intelligent Cloud requires that you're on Dynamics NAV 2018. It may require an upgrade from a prior version, and everything else is the same. Now, what I wanted to say about the Intelligent Cloud is the Intelligent Cloud may not move everything that you have in NAV or GP or SL into that Intelligent Cloud. So we'd want to discuss what information you want to analyze and what would be most important for you to have in that cloud so that you can do the most effective analysis of your data. Now, in regards to migration, the process is different. So with the migration here, everything can migrate because Dynamics NAV is in essence the predecessor to Dynamics SL. So all of your historical data will be made available to you. All of your master records will be made available to you, etc. You still may want to consider some redesign of the system to make sure that you get most effective use of the system moving forward. But understand that you will have I would say, an easier path to move from NAV to Business Central. So the upgrade path, what we've seen most people doing, and this is something that's unique to NAV, is really Dynamics NAV, because it is the predecessor to Dynamics 365 Business Central, it really still has an on-premise version that we can upgrade to. So Dynamics NAV on-premise, we can actually upgrade our Dynamics NAV. Say we're on 2015 as an example, we can upgrade to Dynamics Business Central on-premise, and then we can do an intelligent cloud synchronization. And with that data, we can then migrate all of your data over into Business Central in the cloud. So it's a little bit of an easier process. It's a little bit smoother, and it's a more natural fit because Business Central being a legacy to Dynamics NAV. All right. And Rocky, I've talked a lot. I don't know if there's any questions that have come in yet, so I'll let you interrupt me if that happens.
I will do that, but so far we do not. So yes, we certainly would encourage anybody that's got any questions out there, please go ahead and type those in.
All right, so next thing I wanted to talk about is Microsoft has invested a lot of effort and money and time into Dynamics 365 Business Central. And they would like for you to consider Dynamics 365 Business Central as an option for your future. So with that in mind, they've provided some promotional pricing, and I thought it would be at least worthwhile to give you some sense of what this looks like, because when you move to the cloud, you're going to be in more of a subscription environment. You pay per user per month, and really there are three different license levels. There's what's called a team member license, an essential license, and a premium license, and I'll real quickly explain the difference. A team member license is predominantly a read-only license, with the exception of a team member can be a workflow prover, and they can also be involved in sales quotes. So the idea is that you can have team member licenses. The essential license is a full user license, and it makes everything in the system available to you minus manufacturing and service management, which are two components of Business Central. To get those additional modules, then you would have a premium license that would give you access. So $100 per user per month would give you access to the entire suite. The essential license at $70 per user per month would give you access to everything minus manufacturing and service management. So Microsoft is providing a significant transition promotion. You can see here that now you actually can get $60 per user per month for premium, $42 for essential, and $4.80 for the team member license. Now that's limited time. The promotion, I believe, is available at least through next year. And because this is a subscription, I believe that it only applies to your first year. So then it would go up to your normal price, but it's a good introduction. It gets you into the product at a very reasonable price, and you'll be well situated and taking great advantage of Business Central before the price will go back to its normal price. All right, so now I really wanted to, and this is kind of a transitional discussion. And when I'm done with this, I'm going to give it back to Bert so that he can explain some of the value proposition of the cloud in general. But why would you or why should you choose to go to the cloud or to stay on premise or to do the synchronization? So as an example, there are organizations, maybe some of them among you, that just want to be a cloud company. You want to shift from a capital expenditure to an operational cost model. And so this is a good opportunity for you to get into more of a subscription-based pricing, predictable model. And this then allows you some other benefits by having it in an Azure cloud, which provide, and Bert will talk about this in much more detail, but the idea of being able to have your software in a very reliable, well-maintained solution environment for your own security and risk reduction. Who would want to do the cloud sync? Well, you might be sitting there going, well, I've been on premise for 20 years using this solution. Why would I want to go to the cloud? Or what's the value proposition of going to the cloud? And so many of our clients take this midterm route because they're not sure about the cloud, but they want to see what it might bring while they can still remain on premise. So it really just provides them greater information and availability in the cloud, but their day-to-day operations will continue on the way they have. And perhaps you may have some customizations that you can't move today, but you still want to be able to investigate this for the future. And therefore, this might be a great way to surface some data, provide some greater efficiency from that perspective while maintaining your existing environment. Versus, why would I remain on premise? Maybe I just don't want to make the move, or maybe there are some really compelling reasons that I need to stay on premise. For instance, maybe I just invested in new servers and it was a big investment, and I'm not going to make a move away from them until perhaps that new equipment moves toward an end of life. And perhaps you have a really highly dedicated and a sizable IT department that is focused on maintaining those servers, and you don't want to waste that investment. Or there may be other reasons. For instance, maybe I can't move all my customizations right now. Those are all examples. And I'll give you the last one I would talk about is, as this migration Microsoft has put in place, some of the independent software vendor or third-party applications are still moving their applications across. So if you have a niche product that brings certain functionality to your business, then perhaps you would want to stay where you're at so that you can wait until those additional products are available so that you don't compromise any functionality that you have today. So I wanted to include this part of the conversation so that you could get a better idea of some of the thought processes that people are going through, some of the things that we're seeing with our clients as they try to decide whether they want to make the leap or whether they want to maybe dip their toe, or maybe they want to stay where they're at and with legitimate cause and reason for that. So with all of that being said, I'm going to turn it back over to Bert, and he will start talking more about why the cloud is so important to your organization. Bert, it's all yours.
Great, thank you, Jeff. And just wanted to kind of build off of a little bit of what Jeff had talked about to really understand the importance of the cloud and really how integral to business transformation it really is to organizations today. And the slide that you see here, 71% of strategic buyers cite scalability, cost, and business agility for driving their decision to cloud services. And as we think about that, I want to make sure everybody was clear that the cloud really has much broader scalability than any deployment on premise, because you have the ability to dial up additional resources as you need them. So instead of making predictions and calculations onto what type of servers and the size and capacity of that equipment for on-premise installations, you don't have to worry about that because everything is deployed through virtual machines in the cloud environment. So by being scalable, you have the ability to add those additional resources as your organization continues to ebb and flow over its growth cycle. And conversely, for those organizations that might tend to be a little more seasonal, you still have the ability to dial down those resources for savings and cost opportunities that would not otherwise be available with a deployment on-premise through that type of equipment. And the other thing is that a lot of times it sounds like we're coming to the decision of to cloud or not to cloud, but many organizations today have employees that are already using cloud in their personal lives. You think of iPhones today and iCloud and other types of Android mobile devices where you're backing up photos of family and friends directly to the cloud, so that in the event that you drop or lose that mobile device, you don't lose that content because it's all safely stashed away in the cloud. And if we do that in our personal lives for things that we hold dear, how much more important is our day-to-day business operations for our ERP, regardless of whether it's NAV or Dynamics GP or even Dynamics SL. So a lot of opportunity there to think about moving to the cloud. And then additionally, I'd like to mention that organizations today are continuing to transform and move away from earlier versions of Microsoft Office and going with the celebrated Office 365. And I say that it's celebrated simply because that they're continually releasing new updates to Office 365, and new apps are being added to the stack almost on a quarterly basis. And so there's so much more feature sets and functionality that's available to your users across the spectrum with a deployment of Office 365, and together partnered with hosting your ERP in the cloud, it's really a convenient marriage of resources for your employees as they understand and the ability to work remotely and to work smarter and become more productive by not being tied or tethered to the office from a physical perspective. They can still be tethered electronically, which is great because it gives them the opportunity to become more productive. So as we think about that, maybe a slide or two to talk about the cloud value. And as we think about the cloud value here, it's greater reliability than what you would see on premise. And basically that's because you have data that would be stored in a data center that has multiple redundancies and internet connectivities directly to the data center that's available to you through resources 24/7, 365 days, and as well as improved mobility and productivity. The connections to any cloud deployments are going to be available through remote desktop, where you would just go ahead and log into the environment, click on the remote desktop, and be able to consume all of that content that you would see in your ERP on-premise, just as you would on-premise directly into the cloud. You can also use the web client and Dynamics GP as well to give you even greater accessibility and connectivity. And then, as I said before, it's through the internet, so it does require a reliable internet connection, but it does allow your workers to become mobile. So anywhere they do have that reliable connection, whether it be a hotspot at the coffee shop or being productive at a conference perhaps, and using that conference or that hotel Wi-Fi, it is going to allow them to continue to do their work just like you would expect them to do by screening emails and things of that nature. So there's a lot of value in it from that perspective. The other thing I would like to talk about quickly about that is predictability in that. Jeff was talking a little bit about some of the licensing costs of the Dynamics 365 Business Central. At the same token, with cloud deployment, if you can't go that route to what he was talking about today, with cloud deployment, it makes them move in that transition into predictability. So you have a per user per month cost for the ERP that is hosted in that environment, so that you're going to easily calculate what your monthly reoccurring costs are. So that's going to be helpful for you, and you're going to be able to calculate out over the term of that entire life cycle what your overall investment's going to be for that hosting. The other thing we want to talk about is the reliability in terms of backup and unified recovery as a cloud value. Your ERP would be deployed into a secure environment, and that environment would replicate your data into the cloud environment on a nightly basis, and it actually replicates it in 3 separate instances. So that's a very strong and robust backup policy that's by default included in the per user per month offerings that we have here at Velocio. So it does allow you for quick restoration up to the last 15 minutes of transactional activity. And again, the backup strategies and policies including the transactional activity restorations and your RPO and your RTO recovery point objectives can be addressed and customized on a specific case by case and user by user basis for your organization. So, we certainly have flexibility into doing that. And I think also earlier in the conversation today, Jeff talked about the deployments in Microsoft Azure. All of the deployments that we would do for our customers and hosting their ERPs in the cloud would be in Microsoft Azure. And Microsoft Azure is the biggest cloud that is out there, and Microsoft has spent more than $15 billion in infrastructure in building up Microsoft Azure and the data centers across the continental United States. And so what that really means at a high level is that's several times over the number of data centers that are available with Amazon Web Services and the Google strategy of the Google Cloud Platform. So Microsoft has been in the business for a very long time. We use the Microsoft products in the ERP on a daily basis. It just stands to reason that it's a natural next step to go ahead and lift those deployments into the cloud environment and take full advantage of the Microsoft stack and the Microsoft app services that Jeff had talked about, and the Power Platform that's available there as well. So if you do have questions as we wrap up this session today, we do thank you for your time. Our contact information is here on this blue screen. We will open it up when we turn it back over to Rocky here in a moment to additional questions. If there are any questions, feel free to let us know what they are, and we'd be happy to address them to you, or to be able to schedule an additional follow-up call with you to answer any specific questions you have, either about the migration, as Jeff talked about, to Dynamics D365 BC, or any questions about cloud hosting and infrastructure here at Velocio. And as I wrap up and turn it over to Rocky, I just want to close out by saying that we have ability to host not just ERPs in the cloud environment, but any application that is running on premise today can be lifted and shifted into a cloud environment. So I challenge the listening audience today to think about additional workloads. Think about those file shares. Think about those file drives and shared file folders that you have on premise, those network drives, and think about how you can move them to the cloud, and let us show you some capabilities that you might not have thought about, and let you understand how we can provide additional access to those drives for you, and with greater reliability in terms of backing up that key component of data and making that available to your users that can consume it just as they do today, but even more productively, and expand that connection opportunity. So again, thank you for your time, and I will go ahead and turn this back over to Rocky.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Good job. We do have one question here so far, and again, we've got a few minutes left here, so if anybody would like to type in a quick question, please take advantage of doing that now. One question here, guys. How is data migration handled in the initial move to the cloud?
So data from your legacy ERP solutions is we use what we call configuration packages, which really allows us to pull data from GPSL or NAV using an Excel table methodology, and we pull the data across that way. If there is need for modification, that can be done at that midpoint and then brought across into the Dynamics 365 Business Central application.
Okay, we got one more that came in here. What is the difference between Business Central and Microsoft Finance and Operations?
So Dynamics 365 Business Central, this question comes up a lot, and I'm glad that the question got asked. Dynamics 365 Business Central is targeted for the small mid-market organization, and Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations is more of the larger enterprise organization. Now, that's a general statement, but it's significantly true from implementation costs and so forth. So normally, you can expect the differences to be from a budgeting perspective. A finance and operations project will be more substantial in cost, but also finance and operations can provide you some incredible enterprise level functionality. However, what we have found is in most cases with a small mid-market organization, and when I say small mid-market organizations, we have organizations well over $1 billion using GPSL and NAV, and that could be the case with Dynamics Business Central as well. So, but normally, organizations as they start to surpass $1 billion annually, or certain levels of transaction volume, et cetera, may find themselves more suited for finance and operations. It's really one of the processes we go through as people ask us where they should go. There's a lot of requirements discussion, and then based on what we learn, then we're typically going to lean one way or the other.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jeff. It looks like that actually is it for questions today. So on behalf of Bert and Jeff, let me thank you all again for attending. And I would encourage you that if you do have any follow-up questions, please reach out to your CSM. They will be more than happy to try to address that themselves, or certainly get Bert and Jeff involved in any conversations that may need to take place. So again, thank you for joining us today. We hope to see you back on some of our future events and webinars, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.